of U.S.-mediated talks over 2 days. More on this from ILTV's Mayan Hoffman.
Senior Israeli and Syrian officials are meeting today and again on Tuesday in Paris in a rare round of U.S.-mediated talks aimed at stabilizing the shared border and laying groundwork for a possible future security arrangement. The talks were first reported by Axios, which cited an Israeli official and another source with direct knowledge of the discussions. According to those sources, the meetings are being mediated by U.S. envoy Tom Barak and are taking place over 2 days, with timing kept deliberately vague as discussions unfold. This marks the 5th round of Israeli-Syrian contacts, but the first in nearly 2 months. Previous talks were put on hold amid wide gaps between the sides and following the resignation of Israel's former lead negotiator, Ron Dermer. The renewed push comes after U.S. President Donald Trump raised the issue directly with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu during their meeting last week at Mar-a-Lago. Axios reported that Trump urged Netanyahu to resume negotiations quickly. An Israeli official said Netanyahu agreed, while stressing that any deal must preserve Israel's security red lines. The goal of the talks is a security pact focused on demilitarizing southern Syria and addressing Israel's military presence in areas it entered following the collapse of the Assad regime. Netanyahu has said Israel has a clear interest in a quiet northern border and in safeguarding Syria's Druze minority. Ahead of the meetings, Netanyahu appointed a new negotiating team, led by Israel's ambassador to Washington, Yechiel Leiter, a close confidant of the prime minister. Also participating are Netanyahu's military advisor, Major General Roman Goffman, who has been nominated to head the Mossad, and acting National Security Advisor Gil Reich. On the Syrian side, Foreign Minister Assad al-Shabani is expected to take part. Israeli broadcaster Khan previously reported that Washington and Jerusalem have reached understandings, allowing Israel continued freedom of action in Syria while pursuing a broader security framework. Still, officials caution that no final agreement is expected at this stage, and progress will depend on follow-up consultations after this week's meetings conclude.
It's day 822 of the war in Gaza. The IDF destroyed a Hamas attack tunnel stretching approximately 2 kilometers in length in northern Gaza. The war remains stuck in phase 1 of the Gaza ceasefire, but Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is signaling that this is about to change. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz has the latest.
Deployed along the Yellow Line, the army located the massive terror tunnel in the Beit Lahia area near the Israeli side of Gazan control. The IDF described the underground route as an offensive Hamas tunnel designed for attacks against Israeli forces and nearby communities. The operation was carried out by troops from the Gaza Division's Northern Brigade, working in close cooperation with the elite Yahalom Combat Engineering Unit. Forces have been operating for months in the area, targeting Hamas terror infrastructure both above and below ground. Meanwhile, diplomatic efforts continue, with the United States working to transition from Phase 1 to Phase 2 of the Gaza war framework. Israel is making clear that any further progress depends on security guarantees and the complete disarmament of Hamas. Prime Minister Netanyahu confirmed that Gaza was a central issue in his recent summit with U.S. President Donald Trump.
הוא חזר על זה גם בשיחות הפנימיות שלנו וגם מול דעת הקהל במסיבת העיתונאים שם. הוא אמר את זה, התנאי ההכרחי זה שהחמאס יתפרק מנשקו. אין אפשרות אחרת. זה תנאי הכרחי ויסודי למימוש תוכנית 20 הנקודות שלו. לא עשה שום ויתור בזה ולא הראה שום גמישות בנושא הזה.
Trump and Netanyahu both insist that Hamas disarm in Gaza. Hamas insists it will not disarm, and question remains whether Trump's planned international stabilization force will do the job or whether Israel will have to return to war.
At least 16 people have been killed during a week of growing unrest across Iran, according to human rights groups, as protests over soaring prices and a collapsing economy spread to cities nationwide. ILTV's India Naftali has more.
Rights monitors say the demonstrations have led to violent clashes between protesters and Iranian security forces. The Kurdish rights group Hengra reports at least 17 dead, while the Harana activist network says 16 people were killed and more than 580 arrested. Iranian state media has confirmed some deaths and arrests, but has released lower figures. The protests are described as the largest in 3 years. While smaller than past waves of unrest, they have come at a moment of heightened vulnerability for the Islamic Republic, with the economy in tatters and international pressure on Tehran intensifying. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told the cabinet yesterday that Israel identifies with the struggle of the Iranian people, saying they seek freedom, liberty, and justice. Speaking at the start of the cabinet meeting, Netanyahu said this could be a moment when Iranians, quote, take their fate into their own hands. Iranian officials have responded with heavy crackdowns, mass arrests, internet restrictions, and warnings against foreign intervention after U.S. President Donald Trump said America could intervene if peaceful protesters are killed, prompting retaliatory threats from Iran. Reports suggest Iran's leadership is operating in survival mode, with senior figures acknowledging the strain of simultaneous economic collapse, protest, and the risk of new confrontations with Israel and the U.S. This was the latest comment by Trump.
Even though there's been protesters killed in Iran, you said we were locked and loaded, ready to go. What is the line there for when the U.S. is going to get involved in those protests?
We'll take a look. We're watching it very closely. If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard by the United States.
And so as Iran faces its most serious internal unrest in years, diplomatic movement is also unfolding on Israel's northern front. Reports of renewed Israel-Syria talks in Paris come as Tehran struggles to contain protests at home, raising new questions about how pressure, diplomacy, and instability may converge across the region. We're now joined by Dr. Mordechai Kedar, Middle East expert at Bar-Ilan University. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Sivan. Pleasure to be here.
Likewise. The protests in Iran have now entered a second week and spread across dozens of cities, with at least 16 people reportedly killed and hundreds arrested. Do you see this as a moment that could fundamentally reshape Iranian politics, similar to past uprisings? Could this pose a deeper threat to the regime's survival?
Definitely. What we see today is some things which are unprecedented. First of all, we see the support from Trump to the people in the streets. And this actually reminds us of the support of the President Jimmy Carter, who supported the Islamists, or those who were against the Shah, in 1978, and thus enabled those people to stream to the streets in big numbers, I'm talking about millions, in order to topple the Shah. And today, it's actually the same thing, but against those who took Iran over in 1979, when Trump tweets twice a warning to the regime in Iran not to shoot on demonstrators, and he actually said it in live broadcast also. So the people are very much encouraged by this support, and especially after what they saw, what happened to Maduro, because what happened to Maduro can also happen to Khamenei or to Pezeshkian, and they have many candidates to join Maduro in his jail in New York from the Iranian people's point of view. And they were very much encouraged by this, because a president who on one side warns the Iranians, on the other side abducts a killer like Maduro, can do it here as well. Why not? Let him come. Good. So this actually is one encouragement. Another thing which defines or characterizes this time of violence is that many sectors take part in these riots. Formerly, like in 2022, when the issue was the hijab, the head cover of the ladies, most of the demonstrators were ladies, especially those who want to go around without scarf. Today, we see many sectors. We see the bazaar, means the merchants. We see students. We see even kids. We see men. We see women. We see women with hijab, with a headscarf, who demonstrate against the regime of the so-called religious regime, although they look like women who identify with the regime because of the hijab, yet they are against it.
Now, from Israel's perspective, what are the risks and benefits of taking a more vocal stance?
Look, no doubt, Netanyahu came out, I think yesterday, with a recording of a clip encouraging the Iranian people to take their fate in their hands. Means, you know, in Arabic they say that freedom is being taken, it's never being given. And if somebody wants to be free, he has to extract the freedom from the hands of those who still stick to his freedom, means subjugate him to their orders. So that's why Netanyahu also encouraged them to run to the streets and to act against the mullahs. And this is good because who knows what the Mossad is doing. By the way, the regime blames those who run in the streets against the regime as they are agents of the Mossad. You know what? If Israel had so many agents in Iran, very good. Why not?
Now, moving on to Syria, reports now say a new round of Israel-Syria talks is set to begin in Paris. How significant is this development?
I think that these talks are a result of a pressure which is maintained on Netanyahu by Trump, by the Saudis, and possibly by the Turkish as well. Because all these three, at least until recently, want to encourage and to strengthen and to empower al-Jolani in Syria. They want Syria to recuperate from the war which inflicted big damages on the infrastructure, on the people. They want to see Syria flourishing again, and everyone because of different reasons. The Turks want to see Syria as its proxy. The Saudis, who hate Turkey, want to see Syria their proxy. Israel wants some kind of stability for the Druze and for Israel in this order. And Trump, anyway, doesn't want to see any war anywhere. So it's some kind of meeting of expectations for many sides. So Israel, in my view, bit unwillingly sits with Jolani because we all know that these jihadists, they could wait for 15, 16 years as Hamas did. And one day when we fall asleep on guard, they might attack us, Jolani included. So Israel tries to conclude the conclusions from October 7, 2023, while others try not to see it or ignore it altogether.
Dr. Mordechai Kedar, thank you very much.
No problem.
In Judea and Samaria, the IDF has conducted wide-ranging operations over the past days, arresting suspects and seizing terror funds. And in Jerusalem, a harrowing scene as police arrested a man who lowered a small girl over the security wall. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz has more.
The Binyamin and Samaria brigades led nighttime raids in about 24 villages. The army arrested about 100 Palestinian suspects and confiscated more than 1 million shekels, approximately $310,000 in terror funds. The operations were carried out in multiple sectors in Judea and Samaria, with a focus in the Hebron area. In Kabatya, the IDF apprehended 16 suspects and seized 26 illegal drones. Terrorists arrested in Kalkilia included arms dealers. Soldiers seized hunting rifles and ammunition. Defense Minister Katz has urged the IDF to prepare for the possibility of a large-scale terrorist infiltration, similar to the October 7, 2023 attack. He praised the year-long campaign in northern Samaria, which led to an 80% drop in terror activity, he said, which he attributes to targeted operations, resident evacuations, and a continued military presence. The IDF says it will continue to maintain pressure on terror networks to protect Israeli civilians and secure the region. Meanwhile, security forces in the Jerusalem envelope have arrested a suspect in a disturbing case involving human smuggling and child abuse. Jerusalem envelope border police arrested a suspect who was caught on camera transferring a young girl over the separation barrier with a child tied to a rope, a clear danger to her life. Security officials say this incident highlights ongoing concerns in the Jerusalem envelope, where border police continue to monitor and prevent dangerous human smuggling activities, including potential terrorist infiltrators.
Nearly 30 American college student leaders from diverse faith backgrounds are ringing in the new year in Israel while participating in Jewish National Fund USA's Caravan for Democracy. The 7-day fully subsidized program equips attendees with the confidence to return to their college campuses and advocate for informed, constructive dialogue about Israel and the Middle East with their peers. Joining us today are two Caravan for Democracy students to share their experiences, Andrew Norton and Polly Johnston. Thank you so much for being here. Andrew, let's start with you. Why did you, as a non-Jewish student leader, want to come to Israel at this particular time?
Reasons. First one is this is the Holy Land. I want to see as a devout Christian where my faith comes from, right? I want to see the Bible come alive. I want to see the steps and the places and the things that make my faith so true, much more than believing. And this is the place to do that. And so that was the first reason. And secondly, it is, of course, to understand truly the Jewish side of this war, to understand the Israeli side of this war, to understand kind of just the reality of what's happening over here. I find myself in conversation with students from all different races and places. And I often see that they have opinions and they have arguments and they want to talk and debate. And I kind of hit an information block. And that information block comes when you haven't physically seen, you haven't physically viewed the place that you're thinking about, the place that you're talking about, the place that you're trying to strive and defend. And so that was one of the reasons, in addition to my faith, that I wanted to come out and truly see Israel.
And you, Polly?
Very much the same situation, but also I think there's no better time to come to Israel. We are just getting out of the post-war issues and also awaiting the last hostage to come home. And I think that's a really important thing because now we can see the life and the joy and the resilience of the Israeli people and how connected everyone is. But also back home, I have a lot of Jewish friends and family friends. So this is very personal as well, especially knowing that some friends are here in Israel right now.
Polly, what has been the most surprising part of your experience?
I think one of the most surprising parts is how joyful and kind everyone is. I think we back home in the United States are given this one perception that Israel is very similar. Everyone's the same. Everyone comes from the same background, and it's very oppressive and cruel. And that's just not the case at all. Everyone has their own opinions, and everyone comes from a different background, and they have different reasons for why they believe in what they believe. And they're not afraid to tell you, and it's absolutely wonderful.
Andrew, how will Caravan for Democracy impact you as a leader and an ally when you return to campus?
Perception. I think that I'm thankful to Jewish National Fund, first off, for this opportunity. And in this opportunity, one of the things they talked about was you're going to physically see this perspective that's going to be able to handle and guide your conversation back home. And so that's truly what it's done. Out here, Caravan for Democracy has quite literally caravan us across Israel to see just all the different places, the points for more than just the Jewish religion, all of them, including our own. And so it's one of those things where you can truly now see, understand, have lived it, have experienced it to a degree that helps carry and guide this conversation towards a reality that we seek, right? A reality that offers peace, that offers safety, that offers respect for Jewish students, Jewish people, the religion as a whole, as well as the entire country of Israel.
Polly, what's one thing about Israel that you want to make sure your peers know?
Honestly, I want to make sure that they know everyone is connected and everyone is affected by what happens to the state of Israel and to the people of Israel. I don't think people back home understand quite how fully connected everyone is and how well people can get along despite their differences.
And you, Andrew?
Yeah, I think that what we really want to bring home is kind of also the opportunity for people to kind of strive and engage in conversation more, engage in the conversation that directs people towards the reality truth, right? I talked about the perspective and things like that I love. And so that's something that I learned here is really just the perspective that says, man, this is a welcoming group of people. This is the home of three religions. This is a land that offers and wants and seeks peace. with everything. So that's the one thing I want to be able to share, bring to people, and kind of pass forward.
Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As the largest provider of Israel engagement programs in the U.S., Jewish National Fund USA inspires a lifelong Zionist identity through youth, travel, and cultural experiences, helping individuals stay connected to the land and people of Israel for life. The organization also offers high school and college students of all backgrounds the opportunity to experience Israel in diverse ways that extend far beyond the classroom. To learn more, visit jnf.org. 3 Jewish teenagers, including an Israeli citizen, have now been confirmed among the dead in the devastating New Year's Eve fire at a Swiss ski resort. 15-year-old Charlotte Nidam, an Israeli citizen who also held British and French citizenship, was formally identified after her remains were located with assistance from Israel's Zaka rescue and identification teams. Also confirmed among the victims are 2 Swiss Jewish sisters, Alicia Gunst, aged 15, and Diana Gunst, aged 14. The sisters, members of the Jewish community in Lausanne, are the youngest victims identified in the disaster. Israeli authorities say it remains unclear whether the sisters also held Israeli citizenship. The fire broke out during New Year's celebration at a crowded basement bar in the Crans-Montana resort. Investigators believe sparks from small fireworks attached to champagne bottles ignited a flammable ceiling material, causing the fire to spread rapidly. Panic and blocked exits led to a deadly stampede. At least 47 people were killed and more than 100 injured, many with severe burns. Swiss authorities have opened a criminal investigation into the bar's management on suspicions of negligence. Police say all victims have now been identified. In Sydney, Australia, heroes of the Bondi Beach Hanukkah terror attack received a powerful tribute during a ceremony at the Sydney Cricket Stadium. ILTV's Devo Klein has more.
At the Australia versus England cricket game last night, a heartwarming ceremony unfolded. The crowd erupted in cheers for the heroes of the Bondi Beach attack. Thousands of spectators, along with the Australian and English cricket teams, stood in applause for Ahmed Al-Ahmed, the Muslim man who confronted and fatally shot the terrorist Sajid Akram, and 14-year-old Chaya Dadon, a Jewish teen who protected 2 young children during the attack. Al-Ahmed entered the stadium with his hand heavily bandaged, while Dadon arrived on crutches, visible reminders of the serious injuries they both endured. The crowd gave them a long standing ovation as the names of the 15 victims were displayed on giant screens with the words "Forever in our hearts." The announcer also declared that this attack was an attack on the Jewish community. Leading the procession were emergency service personnel, including paramedics, doctors, and police officers who responded to the scene, some while off duty, all of whom were respected by the crowd. Members of the Jewish community joined in, receiving a strong show of solidarity and respect. The stadium announcer then thanked the heroes in the community, praising their courage, service, and compassion in the face of tragedy. Ahmed Al-Ahmed and Chaya Dadon stood humble and moved, a reminder of the bravery that saved lives on that fateful Hanukkah night.
And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. We opened today with a diplomatic moment that